Hi and welcome. I'm Lisa. Thanks for joining me for another handmade card tutorial here on my YouTube channel. So today I have a few quick and simple birthday cards to share with you. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I create my own backgrounds using stamps and share a tip or two along the way. It should be fun, so let's get started by showing you the two stamp sets I'm going to be using. Here I have the Cow Party stamp set, new from Whimsy Stamps, was part of this month's release. It's full of punny sentiments like party till the cows come home, sorry it's pasture, holy cow you're how old. Now I'm going to be pairing this set with the Happy Everything set from Whimsy Stamps. This Happy Everything set is a great set to have in your stamp collection. I really love that you get a lot of different fonts with this. I love mixing my fonts. It adds some interest to the cards, I think. Plus, it has some great elements to accompany those buildable sentiments. Now, one thing that I really love doing when I'm creating cards is creating my own backgrounds using sentiment stamps. And when I start to create a background, there's a few things I think about first. One, do I only want to use the one stamp, or do I want to come in with other elements that are going to complement what I'm doing? And two, am I doing a black and white background, or do I want to incorporate some color into this? Now, I use an acrylic block when stamping. It just makes this type of stamping a little bit faster for me. With that said, you want to make sure you have ink that is going to give you full coverage when you stamp, so you don't have to worry about repeat stamping. Now, I recommend the Versafine Clair inks. I'm using Nocturne on the cards in this video, but they have 24 colors that are bright and vibrant. Plus, you're going to get amazing results on the first stamped impression. Now, with all of that said, I realize not everyone is comfortable stamping with an acrylic block and prefers a stamp positioning tool, and that's okay. Just make sure you're cleaning that stamp off before you move it each time. So I always start with a piece of paper bigger than I actually need, and I always stamp off the edges of the paper. It will give your background a more finished look. There are exceptions to this. For instance, this is a 4¼ inch by 5½ inch piece of 110-pound Neenah cover stock. Now I'll be cranking it through the die cutting machine with one of my rectangle nesting dies to cut it down. So you can see I've only stamped close to the edge because I know I'm going to be die cutting it, so it's okay. Now, when it comes to actually stamping, I recommend picking a spot somewhere in the center of the paper to start. Also, don't overthink this. We have a saying from when my hubby was in the infantry, think long, you think wrong. So don't overthink it. Once you've stopped stamped the first image, build off of that by stamping above and below that first image, and then go back and fill in around it if that's the pattern you're working with. So you can see here, I did a repeated pattern with rows of 1 and rows of 2. Once you know the pattern, it's just a matter of stamping the rest of the paper. It goes pretty quick at this point. I have one of the stamped images here, and I just want to make sure this is going to have the look that I want before I move forward with it. I'm happy with it, so the way it's coming along. I'm going to fill in between the birthday party sentiment with this balloon party hat and confetto. For anyone thinking I'm nuts, that's the singular form of confetti. So these elements, once added, are going to help tie that background to the main image. For the second background, I decided to use the candles from the Happy Everything stamp set because the image for this card is a cow with a cake and candles, and I came in with the sentiment wishes because that's what you're supposed to do when you blow out the candles on a cake, make a wish. So I just wanted you to see how I'm tying all of this together. Another thing I want to talk about real fast is stamping straight images. So you've noticed I'm not using anything to guide me while I'm stamping, and when I stamped the candles, they were not perfectly straight. I don't fret over that. When you're done stamping, you can crank the panel through the die cutting machine and position the paper and die so that once it's cut, everything is straight. Now, of course, this is only going to work if you continue to stamp the image the same. And of course, there's always that second option, file 13 and start over. Now, I've started keeping certain pieces of paper that was headed to the bin, and now I use them for dimension behind word dies, sentiment strips, and shapes instead of using mounting foam. So here's the last panel, and you can see how I've stamped the first sentiment in the center. Then I stamped below it, starting off the left side of the paper, stamping across to the right side. Now I noticed I had a little bit of ink there in the center. Not worrying, because the image is going there, no one will see it. Also, when I stamped across the very top of the panel, I ended up with some big oopsies. Again, not worrying about it, because I can just crank it through the die cutting machine with one of the rectangle dies and just toss that part in the trash. My biggest tip is have fun. This is a hobby for most of us, and hobbies are supposed to be fun. So have a good time with it. So I'm going to move on to the images now, and I did stamp them onto 80-pound smooth cardstock, and I used Memento Tuxedo black ink because I'm coloring with Copic markers. So I'm going to come in on the first image here, and I used N0, N2, and N4 on the spots on the cow, and then I just added a little bit of warm grays with the W0 and W1 just to add a little shading. Now, the hat and the balloon, I wanted to be a bright pop of color. So I'm using that R35, R37, and R59 to color that. So each card is going to have one color that just pops right off that black and white background. Now on the second image, I again came in and colored the spots with the N0, N2, and N4. I added a little bit of shading with that W0 and W1. And I'm going to color the icing on the cake with B28 and B23. And the cake itself and the flames on the candles are colored with Y21. And then I did add R01 to the nostrils. Now these images are pretty small, so there's not much coloring here to be done. That's one of the things I love about them. So the last image, I was going to go with one color for it, but then I decided to go with a rainbow across their hats. Rainbows are huge right now in card making, so I thought that would be a fun addition to this. So I'm just using N2 to add some color to the spots. These guys are small, so you won't have much coloring to do on them. W0 to add in that little bit of shading. Now for the hats. The first hat, I'm going to use R29 with YR68. The second hat, I'm going to use Y13 and GO5. Now for the third hat, B28 and V09. Now I just colored half of each hat with one of the two colors and then blended the colors together where they met in the middle of the hat. So simple and so easy to blend. Now I went ahead and I cut each image out after coloring them because they are a basic square and you can just grab your scissors and go at them. Now I'm going to start wrapping this up. I'm using liquid adhesive here to add the stamped background panel to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base. I ran a piece of black and red cardstock through the die cutting machine with square dies to create mats for this cutie. I'm using liquid and foam adhesive to secure this to the card. Now for the second card, I did a last minute add-on with it. I decided to add another sentiment to the background. It's going to read, "Wishes for Moo." Now, the "For Moo" sentiment is included in the Cow Party stamp set, and I just saw this as an opportunity to fill in a little more white space while giving me another element to tie everything together. So I'm going to switch over to tear it tape to adhere the panel to a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card base. I'm going to run a piece of black and soft navy blue cardstock through my die cutting machine with those square dies again. And we're just going to use those for mats, tear it tape, and foam adhesive to go ahead and secure that to the card base. So last card, again, we're going to do tear it tape along with foam adhesives to secure everything to the card base. I'm using black and white cardstock to mat this image that I just ran through the die cutting machine with that square die. So the last step to wrapping the cards up, we're going to stamp 3 sentiments from the Cow Party stamp set. Sorry, it's pasture, and then holy cow and birthday. We're stamping onto black cardstock using a white pigment ink, and we're going to heat emboss those with white embossing powder. Then we're going to come in and add black foam adhesive strips to secure these sentiments to the cards. And we're going to secure them right there below each image, a little offset to the right. Now, here's what I absolutely love about these cards. The red card reads, "Sorry, it's pasture, birthday." The next card reads, "Holy cow, a whole lot of happy." And the last card, "Birthday wishes for Moo." Love it. So if you really stop and take the time to think about all the things you're using, you can just tie every element of your card together. I love it. I love creating my own backgrounds. It's one of my favorite things. And okay, that's going to bring us to the end of the video. Leave a comment below letting me know what you think of the process I use for stamping backgrounds. I love reading your feedback. You all are always so encouraging, and I'm forever grateful for that. If you're new to the channel, I hope you'll click that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of new content. If you want to give me a thumbs up button, that would be great. And as always, feel free to share this video with your crafty friends. Thanks for joining me today, and I hope you have an amazing day.